Hi guys, welcome to today's session. So we are going to start with an icebreaker, and that will be shared by Gagan on Menti, and it's basically some form of introduction so that we can get to know who we are today and we can get to know who we are interacting with. So let's start.
Hello, everyone. Welcome for today's session. I hope you guys are excited for today. I'm just going to share my screen and then you guys can log in to that website and let's just see what's happening. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so yes, so you guys can tell us where you're logging in from today.
Mm-hmm.
So just go on menti.com and this is the code on my screen and let us know where you're logging in from today.
Okay, so there's Nairobi, there's Kisumu, there's Meru, there's Kiambu. Anyone else? Okay, there's Thika. Any more replies? Kapsabet Nandi. Okay. People are from everywhere. Mm-hmm. More replies? Okay. I think that's about it for the Menti. And thank you, Gagan, for the question. At least now we know everyone, most of the counties are represented. So we will start off with our first speaker, who is Dr. Faith Aseta, and I wanted to read her bio as a form of introduction. So Dr. Faith Aseta graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Human Anatomy in 2015. She has recently completed bachelor's degree in medicine and surgery at the University of Nairobi. She has conducted several research studies and published in peer-reviewed journals. Her interests are in the fields of surgery, anatomy, and medical education. Dr. Seta loves music and also enjoys traveling. So that's a very impressive bio, Dr. Seta, and we are glad to have you today. So we can start.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much, Mudhoni. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor to be part of the MSAKE 2020 General Assembly and to be part of this research workshop. I'll just begin my presentation. Let me share my screen. Yes, so this is the outline of my presentation. So I'll just give a brief on my journey in research, the benefits of research from undergraduate level. Then I'll go on to tell us where you can learn research, some few tips on publishing, then I'll conclude. So my journey actually began in 2015 when I got an opportunity to do a Bachelor of Science in Human Anatomy. And this really offered a good foundation in research. I also got mentorship. And during this period, you're required to do some research work. So I did 3 research studies, an experimental study, a descriptive one, and a desk review. And in 2016, my focus was on publishing. So I learned a bit about publishing, how to do a manuscript, and I was able to publish 2 of my papers. From 2018, I've been part of various research working groups, and we did a research in medical education, and the paper is in the process of being published. We are doing a research in surgical oncology, and one on SARS-CoV-2 also. So I will say at the beginning, research can seem really confusing and complex, and you don't know where to start. You know, it's like all these jumbled up letters. There's so much that you can do at the same time. There's so much that has been done. So you wonder, where do I even start? How do I even get a topic? But you realize with commitment and consistency, and once you just take that first step, it actually, like, things fall into place and you get good at it with time. And at the end of it all, you're able to even publish papers, and yeah, it gets better with time. So what are the benefits of research in undergraduate? Maybe you're wondering, why should I even start it now that, you know, it involves a lot of work, a lot of my time? So the first thing is that it's an opportunity for mentorship. The good thing about undergraduate is that in undergraduate, you have access to mentors, like one-on-one mentorship. Your lecturers are available, your colleagues are right there, compared to out here where mentorship may seem a little bit difficult. So you can take advantage of that. Number 2 is networking. research is a good opportunity to network. First of all, your mentors will be a good point of networking. And number two, when you attend these international or national conferences, you get to meet people, the who is who in the various fields. So with that, you're able to network, and you never know what opportunities can arise from that. Thirdly, it helps to shape your career path because, in undergraduate, you're really not clear about which direction to take. But with research, you're able to, start getting clarity a bit early. The next one is it gives you a competitive edge in applications. In today's world, you're required to apply for, be it employment, be it scholarships, be it residency, all those applications, they'll always ask what else do you have to offer. And if you have a publication, if you've been able to assist in research and do research, it really gives you a competitive edge in that. The next one is skills development. So personal and interpersonal skills development. So first of all, really important is critical thinking. So with research, you're able to become a critical thinker. You develop communication skills. You learn how to work with a team, which is really important in all aspects of life. The next one, you get to travel for conferences, to do your presentations. Yeah, and you can even get grants for this. Then the next one is the financial benefit. Well, this may not be immediate, but for instance, if you're assisting in research, you can be able to get, some stipends out of it when you're a research assistant. But later, as you grow in research, you can even get grants for that. Then, so where can you learn research skills? So the first one, actually, this first one is really available when you're in undergraduate. So there are usually opportunities to assist in research. So for instance, when the residents are doing their projects, they'll call for assistance. And actually these ones pay. And so you get the experience, you can get paid for it. And you can also become a co-author, if you are interested in writing. The other one is research programs available in medical school. So there are many. I know there is REPUB, there is REMED, there is HAPI, which is part of the elective programs. There are also elective programs that you can engage in, and they are based on research. And other programs like research clubs you can join. Yeah, those are some of the few. The next one is online courses. So you can check out in Coursera, there are several courses on research. And especially when you're at home, it's a good opportunity because you can easily do them and even get certificates from them. Then the next one is scientific conferences. So when you go for conferences, you're able to learn like what research people are doing, how they got into it. You can even get mentorship. You can link up with someone in your specific area of interest. So then I'll move to publishing. I understand yesterday we discussed about the basics of research, the components, and even we talked about the manuscript a bit. So these are just a few tips, like general tips, because publishing, it's a whole topic on its own. So the first thing I put there is get guidance. So guidance is really key because, publishing can seem such a big task. Yes, you've done your research, you have really good results, but the results are just in your laptop somewhere, you haven't published yet. But with guidance, then from people who actually done it, it gets easier. They'll be able to lead you on which journals to publish in, what steps to take, etc. So this one really helped me in BSc. Like my supervisor, he was really keen on we need to publish this thing as soon as possible. So we set goals and timelines, and he used to give me like, within 3 weeks, I want the manuscript ready within this time. We want to submit. Have you done the correction? So it's very good to have a mentor who is able to follow up with you. Then you need to select an appropriate journal, in the sense that, don't just publish for the sake of publishing. Make sure it's a good journal with, check the impact factor, check the audience. You need to also check the cost of it. You don't just submit and then it's too expensive. And then when you're starting, you can submit to journals that they have good impact factor. Maybe it's zero cost, maybe if you submit to something like New England Journal of Medicine, maybe you'll be discouraged. Okay, it can get published, but when you're selecting, make sure it's a journal that you're likely to be published. So there are various considerations in that area. And then you need to prepare a quality manuscript. This is really key. So make sure you really do a good job on the manuscript, so that it's accepted and you have fewer corrections. So this increases the likelihood of your paper being accepted. And then for collaborative effort, here I mean both in preparing the manuscript and in publications. So you've heard about research working groups or consortiums. You can just get a few colleagues and start a group. Each of you can come up with a topic, and then, when you'll be publishing, in one of them you'll be the first author, in the others you'll be the co-authors, but you'll have several papers out of that, compared to just doing research alone. And then when you're publishing, just take constructive criticism positively, because you'll get corrections from your mentors, colleagues, from the journal itself. Sometimes you even get rejection, but you should take it positively and take it as an opportunity to grow, because it really sharpens your writing skills and research skills. Then the last one is commitment, resilience and persistence. This is really key. You need to just be focused on doing that, and don't give up. If it's rejected in one journal, it doesn't mean that the others will reject it. So just keep persisting in it. So I'll conclude with a quote that says, you cannot discover new oceans unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. So in research, basically, sometimes you just need to get out of your comfort zone. Just believe in yourself, leave out those fears, and just step into the ocean. There's so much for everyone in research, and once you take that first step, then you're able to discover that it's really something worth doing. So these are just a few images from electives last year in South Korea. We got an opportunity to attend a conference that there is Asia Pacific Hepatopancreatobiliary Association 2019. And during such conferences, you realize there's so much that can be done in research. People are doing a lot of things in the field of surgery and other fields. So don't limit your thinking. There's so much that can be done. We also visited the research center in the university that we were in. And it's my hope and prayer that, our country will also invest in such, both nationally and also in our universities, so that you can promote local research. At the center there is me just getting a feel of robotic surgery, and this just tells you, there's a lot, the future of medicine is bright, and there's a lot that is being discovered to make medicine even better. yeah, and you also get to visit places and experience cultures. Yeah. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Faith. That's a very good way to start the session. I really enjoyed the session but mostly I enjoyed the pictures. Thank you. That was a really nice session. So we will move to our second speaker, Dr. Keith Mandela. I'm also going to read his bio. So Dr. Keith Mandela currently serves as Communications Research and Development Head at Kotani Labs and also as Head of Research and Strategy at iConnect Global. He has served as Head of Research at EOS Nairobi. He has had great exposure and involvement in blockchain technology, is a researcher and also a medic. He is passionate about the use of technology to offer inclusivity to improve quality of life. So welcome, Dr. Keith Mandela. It is a pleasure to have you here, and we can begin.
Thank you, Dr. Mudhoni. I appreciate the warm welcome. Allow me to share my screen. My name is Keith Mandela. I'm still getting used to the title Doctor before my name. It's been there for just less than 2 weeks, and we thank God for the strides we're making so far. In this presentation, I'd like to take you through my personal experience, to mention the benefits of early research exposure as an undergraduate. I will talk a little on how to build research skills, and I will share a few tips on publishing before concluding. So my experience began in my first year of medicine. I had this curiosity about the research degrees in medical school. So we interacted with people who'd done BSc anatomy, BSc physiology, and I was curious about it. But at that point, my curiosity was purely in academia. I had the opportunity to do the degree in Bachelor of Science Medical Physiology in 2016, and that is when I got my first proper research exposure. I worked with lab rats. I had 40 lab rats, and I induced the metabolic syndrome in the rats, and there was the comparison of different drugs and components in like reducing the metabolic syndrome. And that was an interesting experience because my research began in the lab. But beyond that, it's expanded, and it's been a beautiful experience outside the lab as well. In 2017, I began having my experience with publication. My first experience was very smooth because it went from manuscript writing to publication was about 6 months. So I thought, yay, I have this figured out. But thereafter, I have had a very interesting experience. At one point, you submit a manuscript, it goes through, and then you get this, you are given changes to make. It goes through, another time you get a rejection. So it's been an interesting experience with publication, and I think we will talk a little more towards the end of this presentation. Outside of medical school, I have had the opportunity to do a little research. So in my bio, most of that is research outside of medical school. So I work with a technology startup called EOS Nairobi. And because of my work there, I have had the opportunity to work in research with other organizations. And the interesting experience is that research within medical school or in a formal setting is not like that outside of, the two are not similar. So the requirements are very different. While working there, the interesting thing for me has been the merging of these two fields. we are discussing universal health coverage, and one of the things that we think about is inclusion, financial inclusion. And the mission of the startup I work at is financial inclusion. And that has kept me merging these two fields and keeping towards my goals. Finally, I have had experience with the research club at the University of Nairobi. I have served in a few positions there. This year I was the vice chairperson at the research club, and the experience with research has been beautiful, and it is something that I would want for any undergraduate to get into. It is very rewarding and it gives you a lot of exposure. This is just to share this comparison between the research in not so formal settings versus research in medicine. Out here, people will tell you, oh, you haven't had that, you just Google it. But in medicine, you hear people giving you citations for everything. So you will be told, according to a 2011 paper by Ahmed et al. It's usually very interesting to look at these contrasts. So what are the benefits of early research as an undergraduate? Dr. Seta has given us a lot of this. So the first thing that I think you gain is exposure. So you get the broadening of your career options. For example, I have learned that I do not have to stay in the narrow path and be a clinician. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but there are many options for you to pick from. So you can go into consultancy, you can go into research at any organization, CAMRI, WHO, UN. You have options as in technology. So for example, I fit very well in the circles I'm in, yet I am not technical. Beyond that, you grow your social circles and your professional networks. You meet diverse groups of people, you get very different ways of thinking. Then by virtue of meeting different people, you're exposed to different cultures and places. Dr. Seta has mentioned traveling, so you get to go to different places. So if research doesn't give you all of the things I've mentioned, like don't speak to you, at least travel may speak to many of us. The second thing you gain is a change in perspective. So you start seeing, for everything you see, you stop just thinking about what, and you dive into the why and the how for why that is so. And I think this really helps because it permeates your daily living and it makes life very beautiful when you're questioning the why and the how behind every what. There is then personal development. One of the things I have enjoyed from research is that it gives you a personal reading culture. When you're in research, you have to keep reading papers in whatever area you're interested in, and it fosters this reading culture. It gives you exposure to learn new ways of communicating. At one point, you're in a webinar, at another point, you have to write a manuscript. So it gives you very wide exposure in terms of communication. There is then the advantage of gaining professional milestones. In academia, for example, for you to grow from one position to another, sometimes you have to get a certain number of publications. There is going for conferences and presenting in conferences. So it gives you that benefit of gaining professional milestones. And again, if all these things don't speak to you, there's the opportunity for financial growth. So this will come in the forms Dr. Seta mentioned when you're working as a research assistant or when you're working with mentors and you get paid for your work. But beyond that, there's getting into organizations which pay you for the work you do. And for the first 3 points, we are focusing on self. Finally, there's the greater good. So beyond yourself, getting into research allows you to contribute to science. So you fill in gaps in knowledge, you can participate in creating protocols, and you can make new discoveries. So there's many opportunities for you to get into research as an undergraduate. How do you build your research skills? So I have already mentioned reading research papers. You can be reading this as part of your study. So you've been given an assignment or you've been given work that needs references. So you will end up reading research papers and that helps you to get into research. You can subscribe to journals. And initially I used to be like that's too serious. But I realized there are many journals that are free, that send you weekly updates, monthly updates to your email, and you don't have to pay for it, and you gain a lot from it. One such example is the Lancet. They keep giving almost, sometimes even daily, updates on the journals published. Then there's participation in local research clubs and organizations. With MSAKE, there's the Standing Committee on Research. There's REPUB with us. There's the local research clubs for various universities. So participate in these clubs, get to know what work people are doing, work with them, start your own research and grow from there. You can work as a research assistant for registrars, residents, and you can help them with that. Finally, there's the thing very many medical students love, going to CMEs, attend webinars, attend conferences, attend research boot camps. All this give you the exposure. And for all of this, if you find an opportunity to get into something and be a part of the research, do it. So in terms of publishing, the first thing I think about is research is almost like a relationship. People are usually afraid of being rejected. But for you to grow in research, be willing to try and fail. Do not be afraid of rejection. Learn to work with mentors. So here I've learned that mentors usually have a lot of experience and patience. And you, who's a young researcher, usually has the energy. So that relationship becomes complete like that. You bring in the energy, they bring the experience and the patience, and you have a valuable relationship. Dr. Seta has spoken about selecting journals carefully. And in this regard, I will mention something small in my next slide about the impact factors. So again, think about what area you're in and the fit with the journal you're submitting your manuscript to. Think about how many rejections it gives. So you can always get this percentage of acceptance versus rejection. Look at the impact factor of the journal. Look at the audience that the journal serves before you submit your manuscript with them. Before you submit any manuscript, have it reviewed locally. Give it to your colleagues, give it to lecturers, give it to your research club. Get people to give you feedback before you make the submission for the journal's peer review. And by doing that, you save yourself some heartbreaks. You won't prevent all of them, but you save yourself some heartbreaks. Then ensure you adhere to the journal's guidelines. So every journal has guidelines on submission. So they will tell you what format they want the images in, what format they want the tables in. Make sure you adhere to all the guidelines you're given so that you don't end up getting a rejection because you didn't adhere to small guidelines. And then finally, if you fail, keep trying. So I am going to massacre a famous man's quote: if you succeed, stay humble, stay hungry. But stay hungry, stay foolish. Yes, so in terms of the impact factor, Dr. Seta mentioned that you should aim high, but you shouldn't disappoint yourself. She mentioned the New England Journal of Medicine. So this table here just shows the impact factor in 2018-2019 for many journals. I picked this from one source. When you look at this, the impact factors are at the bottom of the bar graphs. More than 73% of journals have an impact factor of more than 1. As you go up, the percentage keeps decreasing. So an impact factor of about 2.65 is good because it'll be, if you have an impact factor of more than 2.65, you're within the top 20%. So when you think about it, when I was younger, I used to think, I want an impact factor of 10. Little did I know. So like, if you go for a high impact factor journal, the acceptance rates become less and less. So it means that you will easily get a rejection. We're not saying that you only go for a place where you will get an acceptance, but there's so much rejection you can take before you give up. So think about it. So in conclusion, you will never really be ready to start. So just start if you want to start. If you're already on the way, don't quit. And finally, research is like working out. When it burns, you're losing the fat. So I hope this is our attitude at the end of this whole experience. I hope we're ready to start this research. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mandela. I hope I can be heard.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Dr. Keith Mandela, for the informative session. I'm sorry for that technical hitch. My lights disappeared right in the middle of the presentation. So right now we were meant to have an icebreaker. So that will be facilitated by Gagan. And then we can continue to the third speaker.
Thank you, Mutoni. And so I'm just going to share my screen one more time, and then you guys can follow the instructions. Okay, so what's the one word that you can use to describe your day today? Log on to www.menti.com and then use this code right here and tell us what's the one word that can describe your day today. Okay, we have a few replies. Maybe if you guys would like to even elaborate more on your day, you're free to unmute your mics and tell us why your day is going the way it is. So I can see someone's day is going insightful. We have some okays, a chill day, a tiring day. That sounds like mine as well. Jaw dropping. Okay, does anyone want to share why their day is going that way? You can just unmute your mic and let us know. Or you can message in the chat box below. Have a kind day. Shock absorbing.
I can see some. Exactly, shock absorbing.
Maybe you want to tell us why your day is shock absorbing. Oh, I can see someone having a pharmacology cat tomorrow. Well, I think I have PTSD from all the pharmacology, but I wish you good luck.
Oh, wow. You're actually on vacation.
Kennedy on a vacation. I wish I was on one too.
Esther said, what happened is what was expected. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, it must be nice.
It
then.
must be nice.
Really nice. Logbook warriors. Wow.
I think I can attest to being the same today morning.
These are quite interesting answers we've gotten today to describe people's days.
Yeah, eye-opening. Okay, maybe we can give one more minute if someone wants to tell us a little bit more about their day, and then we can continue with today's session. Can we bring our logbooks to you, Dr. Keith?
Everyone can be a doctor when signing a logbook. So we can continue. Right?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Gagan,
Thank
for
you.
that wonderful icebreaker. And thank you so far, Dr. Keith and Dr. Seta, for the informative sessions. I'm learning a lot. And now we can go to our last and final speaker of the day, and that will be Dr. Stephen Kishuru. Let me read out his bio. So Dr. Steve Kishuru is currently a medical officer. He's a previous Medical Students Association of Kenya official serving as the National Officer of Human Rights and Peace in 2015 or 16. He endeavored into philanthropy, serving as the Executive Director for Young Medical and Allied Professionals Foundation in 2015 and 16. As the co-organizer and the licensee for the 2017 TEDx University of Nairobi, he brought TEDx to the university and is also the founding treasurer for the Student Surgical Forum of Kenya. He has also started a small-scale farm that offers mainly poultry-associated products and services. His startup offers chicken pellets that have been raised organically without the use of antibiotics or animal byproducts. In other words, kienyeji chicken. He has 2 years experience in teaching anatomy in undergraduate and clinical research with a particular interest in breast cancer research. So welcome, Dr. Gishuru. Please give me a minute as I set up the slide.
Hello. Hi guys. As you've heard, I don't know whether you can start. Mudhoni.
I don't know what's happening to my laptop, but yeah, we can start. Sorry.
So. Hi guys. My name is Steve Gishuru, as you've heard. I'm so happy to see Keith and Aseta adding the names DR just in front of them. We started med school with them. It's so nice to see them achieving as much as they have. For me today, I'm going to give a more personal, I think, experience. I won't go into the benefits as, what do you call this, out of the blue. I'll stick to what has happened to me so far. And I can relate so much to what Keith is talking about, the disappointments and the heartbreaks. But yeah, that's what I want to get into. So I'm just going to start with the quote from Chance the Rapper. We only know what we know until someone knows better. So I think for me, I'll start from where it started. So I've always wanted to do research, and there were many opportunities along the way in undergraduate to do the research that I wanted to do. I remember in second year, I started out by doing a review paper, a small review paper that didn't go far, mostly because me and my friends who got together didn't see the sense in it, and it became a bit difficult. Also, at the same time, there's the opportunities to do BSc Physiology, BSc Anatomy, and my father at the moment was not that encouraged or that interested in me doing such things. Medicine is a very long course, and he didn't see why I should take 1 year outside of the whole course to just go and learn about research or that particular area. So I was lucky enough that when I was in my fourth year, going to the fifth year, there was a research club that was organized by the then chairperson, who's Dr. Bundi. I don't know whether you're aware of him. And they were able to come up with a system where the students taught other students how to do research. And for me, I was like, this is finally an opportunity where I can learn how to do this outside of com health class and all that. And I took it to just 500. It was 500 for the whole year, and I thought it was just a bargain compared to paying a whole school fees for 1 year. So I was taught, and basically the first statement that I had was basically relating to this. We only know what we know until someone knows better. And it was someone just defining research. It is searching again. The information is most of the time out there. It's for us to go and search for it again, or to clarify small bits about it. So why should we do research as a medical student? I think this question is very personal to so many people. But the main thing for me at the moment was to get information, because I wanted to know about something in particular that I was interested in. And that particular moment, it was breast cancer. So I just tried reading around it, and then I stumbled upon a topic that was interesting to me, which was breast reconstruction. And I just went with it. So the based on what other people have said and all the slides we've seen from Keith as well as Aseta, where they're delineating all these reasons, it's basically the same thing as for me. I would say that you gain information from doing research, but you have to be able to convert that information to something usable. So why should you do research as a medical student is being able to find use of information outside of the usual coursework, because we have a lot of things that we need to read throughout the 6-year period. But this information, the utility it gives you as a medical student goes beyond what you learn in class. So one, it allows you to gain mentorship. So for myself, I was able to get in contact with a lot of plastic surgeons, which is the course that I am interested in. So I was able to do, through my research, get mentors who are basically surgeons in that particular field. So I'm able to even contact them, even right now, if I feel like calling them and even talking about anything other than research, it's easier because we already did a project together. So mentorship is a big thing. And two, you're able to interact with people within that field of interest. So let's say, for example, you're into general surgery, you're into dermatology. Instead of it being abstract to you, you're able to, as you do your research, your mentor and the people around that whole study are able to connect you with people who know more about it and able to put you in a position where you're able to even see it firsthand. I was able to, I was lucky enough to get a mentor even in Empisha Hospital, just through my study. So he's a big breast reconstructive surgeon, and he was able to read my paper and just contacted me. He's like, hey, I want to mentor you. So these are things that can only happen if you put yourself out there by doing research as a medical student. Two, there's a pride that comes with you doing research that you gain by only doing it. So you're able to have this niche, this particular area which is unique to you. So I might have only done particular sets of research and have not published as much, but the few people that I know, including the people I was working with during my internship, they're able to identify me and know that I've done a particular type of research. So you'd even get that consultants will ask me, so what do you think about this particular patient who has breast cancer? What do we do? And at that time, I've not even done masters, but it gives you a particular type of pride. When you go online and you're able to see you've been referenced somewhere and they're writing your name, Gishuru et al., it gives you a particular pride. That pride and that confidence allows you, even as a medical student, to venture. So you're able to even study harder for internal medicine, for other units, because you have this pride that goes with you because you're able to do a project, complete it, and you've already proven that you can understand something better than the rest. I've seen a set of post photos of travel and all that stuff. That is also another one. So if you're a huge travel junkie or you just love traveling, this is a big deal. For me, I was invited to London. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I wasn't able to travel. I got everything, the visa, everything, and then COVID happened. But I was invited to come to London and give a talk on just breast cancer. A simple topic to me, but apparently it was interesting to someone for me to invite me and to pay for me everything. So that is it. There's also the joy that comes with you doing something that's interesting to only you per se. You're able to, I don't know about you guys, but I'm seeing you guys complain about logbooks and all that, where you're just doing things haphazardly. I think even in 6th year, we're doing so many units, but when you're doing something that you enjoy, for me personally, it's breast cancer and plastic related interventions for that. I can find myself coming to my laptop and reading. And in undergraduate, I wouldn't just sit and read bipolar disease just because. I would read because I want to pass the exam. But you find that, as Keith was saying, you have this reading culture where you wake up in the morning and you're like, hey, yesterday or the other week, I had someone talk about this intervention about breast cancer, and you research upon it, you read more on it, because it gives you some kind of joy to just be, doing only what you're interested in. I've seen Aseta talk about residency and all that. Yes, it does. Personally, I'm not yet a resident, but because of my mentors, you find they even try to push me to start residency early. I remember I got a phone call last year in September. I was still an intern, and they were asking me how comes I've not applied, and I was like, I'm still an intern. I think doing research helps you. What do you call this? You're able to get to your mentors quicker, fast, and applications become much easier when you do research. It's not a must, but it's a good to have. So that's what I would say in terms of my personal experience. So the information that you get from research could be, you can tell everyone that there are 50% of the population is female, but if it has no utility to you, no relevance, no value in terms of mentorship, giving you some pride, allowing you to travel if you want to travel, allowing you to look at a niche and provide more information on that, then there's no point of you getting into research. So the next thing is, how do you start? As I said, for me, I was lucky enough to have been taught my research skills by Research Club. But that's the easy part, going for those tutorials. I think there was like a 6-week tutorial where you had to give up an afternoon to just be taught how to read papers, how to do this and that. But as kids say, just start. I'm sure as you sit right now, there's something that's very interesting to you. There's something that made you come to med school, other than the financial benefits, if that's it. But there's something that made you join med school in the first place. Maybe your mother or your grandmother or something happened to them, diabetes, stroke, breast cancer, gastric cancer, all these things that are so personal to you. You need to identify that as early as on, especially if you're talking about med school. Identify that and then just start reading about it. So how do you read a paper, for example? You just grab the paper you're interested in, just search it, look at the title, look at the abstract, read that first, go to the conclusion first. Don't read the entire paper like a storybook. Read the title, the abstract, understand what it's all about, then read each part slowly. And then it's just like med school. You sit down, organize your notes, organize your thoughts, read it, write it down, think about it. The good thing about research is that you don't, I know I said I was talking about mentors giving you deadlines, and you do have deadlines, but it's more on your own terms. You have to understand what you're reading. You can't just sit and write a paper from nothing. So if it's on breast cancer, maybe you have 10 papers that you want to read. Let's say it's a review, the 10 papers, you cannot just read the 10 papers and just copy paste. You have to go synthesize it, sit down, think about it. And that's how you start. Just get a topic, get papers, start reading them slowly, and then organize your thoughts. Start writing notes, just like you study for school. It's the same thing. It's just that now it's more on your own terms. And I would also advise you to do the same thing that Aseta was talking about. Get a group of friends. If you can even contact me after this, we can work on something together. Get someone who you can work with on a particular project. Someone who has similar interests, someone who has research experience, because they don't necessarily have to be interested in what you're doing, but they will help you go through each of the steps. How do you read a discussion and make sense out of it? What does this discussion mean? So you need to work with someone. So that's what I would tell you. First, get an idea, sit on it, get the papers you want to read, or get one paper, start reading them. And then the next thing is start working on it. Just write notes, tell your friend, hey, I have this idea, I want to work on it like this. And then you just start working on it. Get a mentor, get someone else to just work on it. Again, you cannot do research alone. You cannot work in a vacuum. You can't sit down and start reading and then produce a paper. It has to have multiple people people with different levels of experience. For example, for me, I'm just a medical officer. Maybe for you, you're a medical student. Maybe you're just starting as an intern, and then maybe you're a resident, and then there's someone else, a professor, who understands it even better. But as a team, you produce a better paper compared to if you just sat in a room in a vacuum by yourself. So publishing is the last bit, and I don't want to dwell too much over here. There's heartbreak involved in, in publishing. I think for me, I was told there's one paper I tried publishing, and I was told there's no theory, and that was before for Keith, I think he was aware of all these impact factors. For me, I can say that to some extent I'm a bit self-taught, basically because I went through a class and then I had to still learn a few things on my own. I had to learn how to get the ethics approval and all those things. So publishing again was, I had to teach myself these things, go on YouTube and learn these things. And I wasn't aware of these impact factors. So I was going for these major journals with over 10 and getting some rough people who, I don't know why they're like that, who just tell you that, hey, your paper there's no theory in it. You can't publish it in our paper. And they don't even wish you well to publish somewhere else. But with time, you're able to identify that this is a breast cancer study. I need to just put it in a breast cancer paper. Who will it serve more? So for me personally, like one of the places I published was Annals of African Surgery, which again, as you think about it, it will serve my population better as opposed to putting it in the Journal of Plastic Surgery, because I would love more for my people to read it as opposed to just some random people. So for me personally, I would say publishing is as a result of everything that you do. But if you do the initial steps, which I am sure you guys have been discussing, but if you do the initial steps better, come up with a better title, a good manuscript, analyze your data well, then publishing is very smooth. I think Keith Apoline Kupita, there's a time I published within 3 months. It's very smooth when you have everything done in the right way. If you have a good manuscript, good analysis of data and everything, then it's very easy for you to publish within a year. So that's what I would say. But that is the last step. And I don't want you to focus much on publishing. I want you to focus more on gaining knowledge and enjoying it. So yeah. I think now we can go to the last bit, which is an open discussion for everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Gishuru, for the informative session. I think there are two things I have had. Travel junkie, that really resonates well with my soul, and publishing. Well, no one has very good things to say about publishing, but if you did it in 3 months, so can we. So the next bit of the discussion is in line with the theme of universal health coverage, which is the theme for the virtual conference, the virtual GA conference. So I have a few questions for the panelists today regarding UHC, and then after the open discussion, we can have the Q&A. Any questions, you can drop them in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask the questions. And then after that, we conclude. So we can start with Dr. Aseta. Is she in? We can start with Dr. Aseta, then Dr. Keith, then Dr. Gishuru. So for Dr. Aseta, I wanted to ask, what do you think of the current state of universal health coverage in our country?
Okay, thank you for the question, Mubani. Okay, I think maybe we are somewhere, I would say, because we have done a bit of the piloting in the various counties that were selected. And now, as we are focusing on implementation, yeah, I would say we are getting there, but there's still a lot that needs to be done for us to achieve it. Yeah.
Okay. For Dr. Mandela, how far do you think we are from achieving 100 UHC and UHC coverage of 100?
I think that's it's a question of looking forward. So I think that when you think about universal health coverage, we are not just thinking about the financial inclusion aspects. We have to think about the health delivery, the health technologies, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, it's not just about health, it also has to cover other elements like equity, social inclusion, and all this is, by the WHO definition of universal health coverage. When you think about healthcare provision, which because of our limited setting, we've focused a lot on the health, we are making strides, as Aseta has said. But when you think about the other elements like equity, we still have a long way to go. But this is not to trash the steps that we have made, because consider, for example, that we now have NHIF that's in a way, as much as we're covering the financial aspects, we're also trying to cover the equity. But again, when you look at NHIF, you will notice that there are discrepancies in the kind of services one can obtain with their small 500 bob contribution every month. So I think that we have many years to go. We have many elements to work on before we get there, but I think that we have begun. And in concluding this answer, I think that it is our responsibility as individuals and as people who are involved in healthcare to try and contribute the best we can, the most we can, beyond just provision of health. So for example, on my end, I feel that contributing in the end of technology is one of the ways of giving back in helping us to attain universal healthcare coverage. So there's more that we can do as individuals and as organizations and clubs.
Okay, thank you so much for that answer. And before I get to Dr. Gishuru, for the participants of today, I would like you maybe in the chat box, you can drop a few comments on what you think about how you think universal health coverage can be tied in with research. So universal health coverage can be of various, can be obtained through various aspects of health. So how do you think this can be tied up with research, or how do you think research can improve universal health coverage? So I'll be waiting for your comments. But as for Dr. Gishuru, now let's take it closer home. You did your internship in Kiambu. So how was UHC implemented in Kiambu Hospital? And if not, how do you think it can be improved in Kiambu Hospital?
USC was not practiced in Kiambu. I think it was in Nyeri County. I can't remember the other county, but for us, for Kiambu County, where I was, there was nothing. But I think the greatest limitation is the support financially for the program itself. I think the challenge you have as Kenyans is that there's a bigger demand for care than expected. I think that's why they did the pilot national implementation program first. But the demand is very, very high. I think the moment you get to work in a public hospital, you see majority of your patients are not able to pay for what you'd think is not an expense. You know, someone is being asked for 500 shillings, they don't have 500 shillings to even open or 200 shillings, which is what is required to buy a file. So the problem is we have a bigger demand for care, and we don't have enough institutions willing to fund the whole program. So I think our biggest issue right now, if if you're to think what would we suggest even as medical individuals is getting the focus away from politics. I think it's going to be very difficult for us to say the same because we are not politicians. But I would wish, and if possible, for us to be able to sit down with politicians and they listen, that we don't focus more on the politics of leadership and more on the politics of healthcare. Because as you see, healthcare is a big issue all over the world. But for us, we don't focus. I think we only give like 5% of our budget to healthcare, and UHC cannot be well supported without the government being involved, the private insurances, the social insurances, if you're to get such. So our biggest issue is our focus as a government is outside. So the lucky thing is, for example, let me not say the grimace. I think for Kiambu County where I was working, there was a change in governors, and the new governor was more interested in healthcare compared to the most recent one. So I think it was Waititu who was ousted, and then we got Nyoro. I shouldn't have said their name, but anyway, when they came in, you could see that Nyoro is more focused on health. Even the hospital I was working, Tigoni, became a level 5 hospital, and it was a level 4 hospital before. And it depends on the person in government, but if you're able to put ourselves in such positions and have such conversations, then the leadership is where our problem is at. It's not, it's the leadership and also the demand in care. They don't understand there's a higher demand in care for such things.
Okay, thank you so much. I've seen Gagan has phrased my question in a far much better way. So for the participants and the panelists, one last question on UHC. If you were to conduct a study on UHC, what would your research question be, or what would your study be focused on? So you can answer on the chat box, or the panelists. I'd really appreciate your answers.
Maybe Dr. Seta can go first because she hasn't answered something, and then we're going to go on.
We can
I hope I'm not throwing you into the bus.
No, we can start with Dr. Seta.
Okay, thank you. So my research question. Okay, first of all, I think research is really key in this implementation of UHC, or designing a UHC that is tailored to the needs of our population. So we cannot like just copy UHC that has been implemented in, US or whichever other country, the countries that have been able to achieve UHC. So for me, I will focus on looking at what are our local needs, what are the most important causes of morbidity and mortality for the various age groups. Okay, that's a wide topic, but it will be around that, so that we know where to focus on. Okay, so that the policymakers will know where to focus their attention on, so that we are not just investing in things that will not make an impact on a larger group of a population. Because again, UHC, we can't just have UHC that is providing like free services for all the conditions. It's not feasible. We have to look at the key things that are affecting our population. So yeah, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mandela.
I appreciate Aseta going. I think that I trusted her to go first. So just to answer the same question, I think that if you think through this systematically, it's easy to get the question that applies to you. Remember that you want to do research that you enjoy. So the WHO gives a couple of indicators. I think there are 16 indicators in 4 areas for universal health coverage. So if I was to ask a research question, I would pick an area that I love or that I'm fascinated in, and then I would delve into using that indicator to work on UHC. So I'll give an example. One of the indicators should be maternal morbidity and mortality. So looking at the number of maternal deaths within your area is an indicator of universal health coverage. So you could look at the trends in maternal deaths over the last 5 years in your local hospital, for example. Another example I would use would be the control of hypertension, control of diabetes are also huge indicators. So you could look at the numbers, the trends in hypertension. Are our numbers rising? Are our numbers dropping? Of the patients with hypertension, how many are well controlled? So I think that there are many questions that one can pick out in terms of universal health coverage. You just need to pick out an area that you're interested in, find the right indicators, and you can get very many research questions, even within just one indicator.
Yes, thank you for that answer, Dr. Mandela. Dr. Gishuru?
I like all the answers that they've given. I think those are very good answers, actually, because I think for universal healthcare coverage, okay, for myself, if I were to think about it in terms of research, I want to know what surgical services can we offer under UHC in Kenya, for example, even in the county hospitals where I've worked, and what packages can we offer? So that basically the answers that you've given, I think, go around that. So there's always the what, the who, and how is it going to be funded. I think we can see, we can only do such things when it's already implemented, or we go back to the way where it was implemented and see how it benefited them. As I think Aseta, just the first sentence she said was, we just have to bring it to ourselves and see how it works in Kenya. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your answers. I can read out some answers that have been sent in the chat box. So is the Esther says her question would be, is there a place UHC has been successfully answered, and what can Kenya learn? Gillian, in this digital era, has technology played a role in improving UHC? Chage says, what is the impact of UHC in Machakos County? I hope those are research questions, but yes. Thank you for dropping your answers in the chat box. I also have some few questions to the panelists. There's a question here that is from Chege and is asking whether one can publish in the same research, whether one can publish the same research in more than one journal. So Aseta, sorry, Dr. Aseta, can you please answer that for us?
That one, publishing the same research in more than one journal.
Yeah.
Not really, but maybe what you can do, what you can do if you had a research topic which you can break down in, like, you know, in a research you have various objectives. So if you can break down that paper to have the different objectives producing different papers, then you submit to different journals, then that can work. But the same research in more than one journal, that is not acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Anita has also, her question would be, sorry, her research question would be, what is the financial burden of seeking healthcare services in a government hospital in Kenya? Those are very interesting research questions covering UHC, and I really appreciate your feedback. There are no more questions. I can't see any more questions, or if anyone has a question they would want to ask the panelists, would they want to unmute and ask? or you can just drop them in the chat box. Anyone? So there is no question. But
Hello, I have a question.
Thank you. You can ask.
So I wanted to find out, how were you able to manage, any of the panelists can answer, how were you able to manage your studies while at the same time doing a research? How did you go about it?
So since Aseta has answered the previous one, so we can go to Dr. Mandela to answer this one.
I think that we have a lot of time on our hands as individuals. We only choose what we want to give that time to. The first time I had that, I felt that it was a very careless answer, but I think my experience has showed me that. So for example, I will challenge you to think about your own life. You can look at this week alone. You will realize that you have very many hours that pass unproductively. So for example, you've come from a heavy day from school and you feel tired and you decide, I'm only watching one episode today. And when it's over, it leaves you at the cliffhanger and you're like, okay, I can do just one more. And then you find that you've done 3 and you say, today I watch series, tomorrow I'll read seriously. Tomorrow, no series. So at the end of the day, at the end of the week, you have a couple of hours that have gone unproductively. If you were to pick up research, actually the best thing is to just start. If you pick it up, you realize that it morphs in with your day. You don't need any extra hours. Like you actually ask yourself, where are these extra hours coming from? At the end of the day, you'll realize that you will have less wasted time. You have more things to keep you busy. So you come from school and you're tired of pharmacology, but you're okay reading this thing you like. It's almost like the break. It's funny, it becomes your break. So the balance comes when you start. If you start and it's overwhelming, you can always give it a pause. Don't stop, just give it a pause. So I think that in terms of balance, it comes down to personal preferences and discipline. But if you start, you will find the time for it.
Okay, just start.
Thank you.
Everything will fall into place. So thank you, Dr. Mandela. And there's a question here by Jillian. I hope I state it correctly. With the workload in undergrad studies, how did you manage to still work on publishing? How about literature review? How did you go about just publishing a literature review for a start? I pray I phrased it correctly. So Dr. Gishuru, you can answer that question.
I think the question is asking how did you go about just publishing a literature review for a start?
Yeah.
Personally, I'm actually working on one with you, but there's I've not yet published a literature review, but what I can say is what Mandela just said. When you already have the topic in mind and you're already working on the topic, you'll find time for so many things, including publishing, writing the manuscript, ethical approval, even getting a team to collect the data for you comes very easily the moment you start. If you've not started, then for sure all these questions will not make sense to you. Like how do you publish? It will only start making sense when you start doing it. So yeah, that's what I would say. And then when you're an undergraduate student, to be honest, yes, maybe it's because I've already left that space and I can't maybe remember it clearly. And I remember it was a tough time, but I think we overestimate how difficult it is. Because again, as I said in my talk, is that when you're doing something you enjoy, you actually don't feel tired. So if you find a topic that you're really interested in, you find that you might be studying for your cat, and then you decide, let me read for 1 hour. So instead of watching that one episode for 1 hour, you end up reading 3 hours into that topic. So personally, I would just say what Keith said, just start. And then when you get to the publishing point, it becomes much, much easier, because that's the end point. You have to do these other things at the beginning before you get to the publishing.
Thank you for that answer. I hope, Jillian, the question has been answered appropriately. So Sharon has also asked, how did you identify mentors or supervisors, and how supportive were they? So this question can be answered by Dr. Aseta.
Okay, thank you, Sharon, for the question. First of all, when you're doing Bachelor of Science, so for anatomy or physiology, you will be, like, the mentors are there, so you'll be assigned, or you can have the option of choosing the mentors, or you can assign mentors for the various studies. Yeah, based on the study topic that you have and the field of specialization for the mentors. So that one is sort of given. But after that, you can continue with the mentorship, which is advisable, and you have to be really intentional about it. Then when you're in medical school, I will say mentors, they don't have to be just your lecturers, even fellow students who have done research, so they can be in your class, even a class behind or a class ahead. So I would say these ones are more available. So someone who's done research, they are more available, maybe compared to the lecturers. For the lecturers, how do you identify them? Not only lecturers, yeah, whichever mentor. So find your area of interest and then approach someone in that field, and someone who maybe you've interacted with and you're comfortable to work with. And yes, they're supportive, but mentorship is two-way. So you have to do your part and they'll also do their part. They can be busy, but it's upon you to also be intentional about it so that it can work. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer, Dr. Aseta. There's also a question to Dr. Gishuru. So Sharon asks, could Dr. Gishuru speak a bit more on working with colleagues at different levels? For example, an undergraduate working on a research with an intern and doctor or consultant.
So working with people at different levels of education and experience requires a lot of, first of all, a lot of respect for what everyone is going through at a particular moment. For me, when I was a medical student, I wasn't put under, first of all, I was not doing a particular program that's what do you call this, where the goal was for me to produce research papers. So I was able to work with someone who was very understanding, one. So you need to be able to find yourself with people who are very understanding. They understand you're doing this at your own pace, and they offer the proper mentorship. So one, there has to be respect. So working with someone who's above you. So like the first one I did it with someone who was in their final year. I was not yet done, and they were doing their final exams by the time I was analyzing data and doing the discussion. So you have to be very respectful of their time. You have to be very understanding of what they're going through. That's one. So, and then two, when you're looking for mentors, look for mentors who will actually offer some value. You can't just have people on your paper. I think that's one of the mistakes I made earlier on. So you need to have someone who offers value. So I was able to get a plastic surgeon early enough in the paper who would give me insights, even if it's not as, these people are busy, by the way. So you might have to schedule meetings and say, okay, fine, doc, we have to meet at 9 p.m. or even on a Saturday if that's necessary, because you have to understand that everyone is not in the same sphere as you. As a medical student, you have to go to class, go to group discussion, but maybe for a medical officer is on call, so he can't produce the paper as soon as possible. Maybe he's on call the whole week. So maybe you have a deadline for that week, but you'll have to pull in major of the work. For your mentors as well, you have to understand that they're surgeons, they're physicians, maybe they're working in 3 different hospitals, and you have to learn how to strike a balance between getting your goals met, having the mentorship advice that you want from them, and being able to give them the space for them to actually do the work that they do. Because unfortunately, you'll not be able to compensate the people you're working with. So you have to understand that they're doing it for free and they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. So you have to understand that. So the mistake I was talking about is, for me to do my first paper, I had to get approval from the department. And I feel like the person who had more power twisted me to to add themselves to my study. So those are the things that you need to learn how to navigate. Learn that maybe it might not produce a lot of things, but it might get you past 1 point. Okay, so those are the things that you learn on the ground, and you learn that this is how you deal with these particular people. But the major message I'm saying is just respect someone, respect the state they're in, and respect their time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for the answer. I don't think there are no more questions on the chat box, and I don't think there are more questions for this session. So one last thing I think that will be coordinated with Gagan will be to take a photo of every participant. So can everyone switch on their videos? Wait. Oh yes, and Dr. Gishuru, can you kindly share your contact on the chat box? So can we all switch on our videos?
It'll just be for a minute and then we can all switch them off again.
Yeah.
I'll just give everyone a few seconds.
Mandela, unataka kuku?
Nataka kuku.
Tutaongea tukiwa kando. Congrats lakini.
Thank you.
Okay, is everyone ready for the picture? Okay, so there we go. So you guys can all give us your smiles while I take the picture. Okay, one more and then you guys can switch them off. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so the last will be to thank and give out my hearty thank yous. So I want to thank the panelists for today, Dr. Seta, Dr. Mandela, and Dr. Gishuru for talking to us about research and making us at least believe that we can actually do it. And I hope each one of us is challenged to at least start. Let us start, and everything will work out along the way. Also, thank you to the participants for joining us today and also having joined us yesterday. I hope you have learned, and I hope you will put everything that we have done into practice. And also I want to thank Gagan for being such a wonderful host and for always taking charge of the icebreakers. Man, I wouldn't have done this without you. Thank you also, Dennis, for representing REPUB, and also to the REPUB team for giving us this opportunity to host the MSAKE GA, and also to the MSAKE team for allowing us to share the space with you guys. So with all that said, thank you everyone, and see you. I hope that we can see each other in the next GA 2021. So bye guys.
Thank you, Muthoni, also for taking us
Bye.
to the past 2 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you guys are all free to leave at your pleasure. Thank you very much for coming.